back, everybody. So today we're going to have the next tasting of beer number 11 in my 2-hop series featuring Cascade and Centennial. This is Cascade Centennial 2-row first wort hopping. Now, this is using the end of the boil hops in the first wort hop. So what they say is you should use the end boil hop, so like the 10-minute, 5-minute flame out additions in your first wort hop, which is when you start drawing off your liquid from your mash container. That's when you would add the hops. And I want to do it both ways. So 8 and 9 used the first addition hops, so like the 60-minute boil hops. Then 10 and 11 use the end hops, so end hops. So this is 2 pounds, 4 ounces of 2-row. Now this is a small gallon batch, 1.25 gallons going into the fermenter. For the hops, 0.25 ounces of each Cascade and Centennial for the first wort hopping, which is, now that I look at this, I'm going to have to go back because this actually shows first wort hop 5 minutes, first wort hop 10 minutes. So the Cascade shows 5 and the Centennial shows 10. I don't know where that came from. Then for the boil, we're going to use 0.25 ounces of Cascade at 60 minutes. So this was bottled on 9/22, so almost a year old. If you haven't been following me, I'd go back and check a lot of these out. But I had some people in the first couple that I did that wanted me to save some for like a year just to see what they tasted like. And I said, okay, I don't know if they'll go that long, but because I'm brewing so many small batches, I actually can't get through them all in a month. So I believe this is probably tasting 5. So in a year, I've only got 5 tastings in, but 6.34% ABV. This did use US 05 yeast, good hiss, good smoke. Big carbonation tablets were used. I'm going to go ahead and get this poured in here just so it doesn't stir everything up. Is it going to hurt you? No, but let's see how clear. Maybe I see a whole bunch of stuff coming through here, so I don't know how clear we're going to get. But usually what you'll see if a beer is over carbonated, especially a homebrew, when you open it, all that carbonation starts circling around. Maybe one of these times I'll grab my phone when it does it, and if you can see through the bottle, it actually will start stirring everything up on the bottom, and you're going to get it in your beer. Now for me, I might get a little bit more trube than you would. I do bottle directly out of the Mr. Beer fermenters, and it's just open, let it go through. When I do dry hop, this one is dry hop before I forget, with 2.5 ounces of each Cascade and Centennial 3 days into fermentation. Sometimes I'll get those hop pellet leaves that go through the spigot and we'll get in the beer. So if we look at the head, off-white head, tight bubbles, small, a couple medium in there, a little over a finger of head, lots and lots of bubbles, bright yellow in color, semi-hazy. I would say that's mainly from the higher carbonation in this. And you don't want to go too big. If you're new into homebrewing, I would rather let a bottle sit a little bit longer probably, because if you carb too much, you could have bottle bombs. These things can explode. I don't know why I was reaching for that again. Let's go ahead and smell, see what we get. Floral, lots of floral in this one. That's probably coming from the Cascade. Most of the time Cascade does give off floral, and it's going to depend on probably how you're using it. I've seen it both ways. I wanted to do these tests just to see what would come through stronger, the Cascade or the Centennial, and it's a mix. It's so random on some of these. Now this one is using more Cascade, so I would think more floral would come out, as that's what I get. Now in the Centennial, it's usually like a grapefruit bitter or like a grapefruit rind citrus that I get. I usually get a lot more citrus out of the smell than anything. This does have a tiny bit of citrus under it, but that floral is coming through big time. I would say it's a floral, earthy, malty mix, if anything. I'm guessing my brain's just thinking earthy because of floral. I don't think it's not like full earth from Old Nation. Yeah, I would say it's more floral malty. That grain, almost being a year old, is coming out a little bit more. It smells fine, especially if you're into a floral beer. But for me, I don't really like the floral. I would rather have it be like the third or fourth note that you get. But we have to make them to see what happens. Let's go ahead and taste. Overcarved, but that citrus floral is mixing pretty well. There's a lot of bitterness in the back of this, but up front, it's like they are mixing together. Maybe there's a little bit of sweetness in there, a little toasted bread, lightly toasted bread, but for a year old, that's probably what you're going to get. But even in the aftertaste, I'm getting some citrus, some floral. I think if anything, the bitterness has really kicked in. I think we saw that in beer 10 too. Very high bitterness. Perceived bitterness is probably 70, 80. In my eyes, from what I wrote down, it's 32.1 per Beersmith. It's light. For whatever reason, I want to say it's refreshing, which is kind of weird coming for me from somebody that doesn't like floral. I think it's just the body, and there is a good amount of citrus, but that floral does take over. Or the floral is higher, I should say, than the citrus, but you are getting both of them in there even at almost a year old. I mean, 11 months to be exact, but that bitterness in the back really takes over pretty much everything. It's like I could breathe hop bitterness out. That's how strong it is. I think if I drank this from somebody and it was a fresh beer, I would think they added way too much hops. Maybe instead of 1 ounce of Warrior, they added 3 or 4 ounces at 60 minutes in the boil. Because you're still getting some of that floral, still some of that citrus in there, but once that bitterness hits, it is on. Yeah, there's some sweetness now. I don't know if it's just my mouth warming up to this beer, but it seems like that sweetness does go through pretty much the whole entire thing until the very back of your palate. Then that bitterness really takes over. I don't know. It's kind of weird. In some of these older beers, we have seen them turn into what I call honey water. Like that sweetness has really come up. All the hops have really gone down, so you're just getting that malt with some sweetness in there. And this one hasn't. I don't know if it's because the hops were added at first wort hopping, so there's more IBUs, so it's going to hold up a little bit longer than something that, say, like New England IPA or something, that might last 3 to 6 months, but because this has the bitterness in it, it can stay longer, maybe, and keep that malt profile back. I'm not sure how many I have left. I think at the beginning, when I started making these last year, I did 7 bottles of each. And then I learned I had to run to the homebrew store about every month to pick up 2 cases of bottles because I couldn't keep up with, because I couldn't drink them. You know, I was drinking them 1 a month. So if I did, 7, that's only 7 bottles. And if I would have 5 to 7 more batches going, there's no way I could bottle them. So now I've cut back to 3 bottles per batch, so that way I can keep on turning them out more. So if I make, instead of using like 35 bottles, in 5 of them I'm only using 15, so I can really keep cranking them out. So yeah, this is okay. Not one that I would make, but I could see somebody that's really into floral. I guess you would have to be a fan of bitterness too, yeah, I wouldn't make this. I don't think that bitterness was there at the beginning, but if you want to go to 31stbrewing.com, I do write all the notes there per tasting, and also you can look at the playlist that I'll link up here that'll run through all these. So yeah, okay, definitely drinkable, just not one for me because of that floral. If you enjoyed this video, check some more out over here, and until next time, happy brewing.